Tony Stark.
Tony Stark.
Tony Stark.
Tony Stark!
I love Tony Stark.
Tony Stark.
Tony Stark.
Tony Stark.
Tony.
Oh, he is.
Tony.
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 Hey, Tony.
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 Hey, Tony.
Mr. Tony Stark.
Never heard of him. Iron Man? Who's that? A nobody. B-tier hero at best. Until 2008, when the MCU launched with the original Iron Man, that is. As hard as it is to believe now, it was a big risk. A long shot. Marvel had sold the rights to its marquee heroes like Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, and the X-Men. Some sources say they chose to start with Iron Man over Captain America or Thor because they thought the toys would work better. So how did Iron Man become the face of the largest movie franchise in history? What made him the perfect choice to ignite a revolution in American blockbusters that's still dominating the industry nearly 2 decades later? And why did DC, despite bigger names and more popular heroes, fail to take off in the same way? It all comes back to one thing.
I am Iron Man.
Rich, arrogant, brilliant, powerful, narcissistic, altruistic, creative, destructive. Tony Stark is a true American. If not quite the average, then perhaps the ideal, or at least a caricature. It's reminiscent of Steve Jobs or Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk, the powerful men who promised to change the world, whether the world wanted to change or not. His showmanship and bravado may well have been ripped from those famous Apple keynotes circa 2007. And it's no coincidence that Elon cameos in Iron Man 2. Like his real-world counterparts, Tony's a tech billionaire, inherited from his father, of course. He's an inventor, a pioneer, a risk-taker, an adrenaline junkie. He's a womanizer, quick-witted and charming and insufferable. He parties and gambles while his inventions bring death and destruction around the world. And then when he's confronted with this reality, he transforms into a moralist and tries to solve it all himself. He makes Captain America seem like, well, like a relic of a bygone era, which he is. And he gives us a vision of our technologically transformed future, with all the hopes and fears that go with it. In short, he's everything good and bad about America in the 21st century. His story is our story, the one we want to hear and the one we need to hear. And people listened, a lot of people, because Tony Stark, that glorious bastard, is America's hero.
Mr. Stark. Captain.
The original MCU, what's now called the Infinity Saga, is a story of 2 men, Tony Stark and Steve Rogers. Many other characters play important roles, of course, but these 2 men are at the center. And it makes sense. Captain America and Iron Man are the 2 sides of the American persona. Our past and our future. Our heart and our brain. Our spirit and our tech. Our duty and our desire. A whole movie, Civil War, explored the often conflicting purposes and perspectives and styles of these 2 great men. In an endgame, they are the ones who get the final, emotionally satisfying endings. Their character arcs across the entire saga are mirror images of each other, with Cap serving as a foil to show Tony how he must improve as a man and a hero to carry on the American spirit into a new age. But Tony is the one who must ultimately decide the fate of the world.
For as long as I can remember, I just wanted to do what was right.
Steve Rogers embodies the spirit of the American path. He's a scrawny, sickly kid from Brooklyn, a fighter, an underdog, tough as nails and full of grit. Like Rocky, his greatest strength is the ability to take a punch and keep moving forward.
But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward.
Above all else, he wants to do his duty, what he considers to be right, even when no one else believes in him and luck isn't on his side. It's the ideal of the American GI, the kind of men who could storm the beaches of Normandy through the storm of bullets and fire and blood. This spirit is why he's chosen to become a super soldier. His highest calling is service to the greater good. It's why he tries to scam his way into the military. It's why he'll jump on a grenade without a thought. It's why he accepts the disappointing assignment to be a mascot. It's why he'll fly off on his own to save a friend. And it's why he'll sacrifice himself to save the world. In every movie, he always does what he believes is right. And he's always losing the things he really wants because of it. First it's Bucky, then Peggy, then his whole world, then his position, his friends, his reputation. Everything is taken from him, but still he soldiers on. It's a running joke in the movies that he needs to find a girlfriend, but he's already lost the only one he cared about, twice, and he can't bring himself to slow down or let go enough to find anyone else. That's just his lot in life. He puts everything else aside to do what is necessary. Duty to his country, to his team, and to his friends is all that matters. Obviously, that's not exactly the spirit of 21st century America. So when Rogers wakes up, it doesn't take long for him to find out he's in a very, very different world. The world of Tony Stark. Tony Stark is a man of desire, born into a world where America is at its richest and most powerful, verging on decadent. Long gone is the moral clarity of World War II, where the battle lines were bright and the enemies open, replaced by the more ambiguous and asymmetric war on terror, where America holds all the big guns but isn't sure where to point them. His debut movie opens with him sipping whiskey in the back of a Humvee after demonstrating his latest weapon of mass destruction in the desert of Afghanistan. Could there be a better picture of the American hegemony and arrogance? Flash back a day, and he's gambling in Vegas, supermodels on each arm, ignoring the award he's supposed to be receiving for his government service. He's got the women, the cars, the career, the fame, the power, the respect. It's the American dream. He does whatever he wants, however he wants, whenever he wants. He sleeps with the hot reporter and shows up late for his flight with the military. What are you going to do about it? Nothing. Tony Stark always gets what he wants. Of course, it can all come crashing down in an instant. It does. The cave is where Tony begins his long, slow evolution into the man who sacrifices himself to defeat Thanos. But it's not as drastic a change as you might think. Not at first. Being attacked with his own weapons and seeing firsthand the human cost of their use, intended or not, changes a few things. Near-death experiences tend to put things in new perspective. But it's less a total reversal and more of a slight reorientation. What drives him doesn't change, just what he's driving toward. He still does what he wants, but he no longer wants to make weapons. This is a good development for his character, obviously. Though not just because weapons are harmful. The Iron Man suit is incredibly dangerous as well when put in the wrong hands. Just ask Obadiah. Rather, it's his first small acceptance of the idea that his desires must be bound by something higher than himself. He does, in fact, have a certain duty to the world. And that's the moment he becomes a hero.
Everything is achievable through technology.
It's worth quickly noting what makes Tony Stark a superhero. Two things: money and technology. He invents his superpower with his own brilliant mind and funds it with his own unlimited resources. In future movies, he burns through dozens of suits, a new one appearing as the old one gets destroyed. He calls down suits from space, builds suits out of nanites, and even gives suits to Rhodey, Hulk, Spider-Man, and... is that Pepper? He creates a new element, just go with it, to power them and constantly upgrades them with new gadgets and abilities. He even produces several sentient AIs, whoops, to aid him, as well as a brand new form of synthetic life. Oh, and time travel. Nothing can stop him because he never runs out of brains or dollars. Just throw money and missiles at the problem until it's dead. How American is that? In the 40s, during the war, we thought what made us great was our spirit, our ideals, our democracy, our freedom, enhanced by technology but not defined by it. Captain America isn't a mutant or an alien or a god. He's just a souped-up guy from Brooklyn who will do whatever it takes. But we don't think about ourselves like that anymore. We think like Tony Stark now. What makes us powerful is not some special spirit or identity or ideal. It's our consumer culture, the ability to produce our wealth, fulfill our desires, and impose our will. It's, iPhones and aircraft carriers and capitalism.
There's an app for that.
If that were the end of the story, we might call it entertaining yet unsatisfying, but it's far from over. Tony returns in Iron Man 2, not much changed. He's still chasing glory and fame and women. His suit gives him even more power to chase his desires and control his destiny. This is how he treats even his friends. He butts heads with the other Avengers because he wants to give the orders, not take them.
Following's not really much down.
Things must be done how he wants them to be done. And why not when everyone else is an idiot? Sometimes that works out, like in the Avengers. Sometimes it's a catastrophe, like with Ultron. Iron Man 3 even examines how much he needs his suit to feel in control and tests what's really important to him. But Civil War gives us the clearest picture by holding him in direct contrast to Captain America.
He wanted to make a difference, I suppose. I mean, we won't know because we dropped a building on him while we were kicking ass.
Shaken and humbled by his failures with Ultron, Tony agrees to international oversight of the Avengers. Importantly, he doesn't want to, but he believes it's necessary to protect civilians and prevent greater restrictions. Not that he didn't want to protect people before, that was the whole point of Ultron, but he's beginning to seriously grapple with his duties beyond his own personal desire to be the hero who saves the world. Of course, he goes about it in a characteristically Tony Starkian manner. He plans it all himself and drops it on his friends, expecting them to comply with his decision even if they don't agree. Captain America is the one who gives the most pushback, precisely because he sees his duty as something greater. He knows he is incorruptible, so he doesn't see why anyone else shouldn't trust him or the other Avengers. He should be free to do what is right. This conflict echoes a country split between security and freedom, the same arguments that played out first over the Patriot Act and global surveillance, and later over disinformation, censorship, and social networks. In Civil War, everyone is put to the test by the reemergence of Bucky, first as a terror suspect and then as a brainwashed fugitive. Bucky is the one thing Cap values most, his last link to the past, enough to get him to disobey orders, defy the police, even fight his friends. He still believes he's doing what's right, but in choosing to trust and defend Bucky, he's shifting his concept of duty to align with his desire. The two men are mirror images, opposite sides in more than just the action scenes. Tony is the picture of desires moving toward duty, truly wanting to do what is right. Steve is the picture of duty recognizing the importance of desire, that not all of life can or must be sacrificed. It's exactly what each needs to become a complete man. Captain America is the hero and ultimate victor in this story. It's his movie, after all. But it leaves Tony, beaten and broken, in exactly the place he needs to be to take on the greatest threat the universe has ever known.
Dread it. Run from it. Destiny arrives all the same.
By the time Thanos' minions arrive on Earth, Tony's life looks much different. Gone are the women, the parties, the clothes, the adoring crowds, the warming reporters. He's walking through a quiet park. He's wearing sweatpants and a hoodie. He's engaged to pepper pots, thinking about children. He's still Iron Man, of course, and he's still Tony Stark, charming, quick-witted, sarcastic, and demanding. It's not that he's stopped chasing his desires, it's that his desires have evolved. Instead of wanting things solely for himself, many of them vain and self-destructive, his desires have extended to include the good of other people. His future family, obviously, but also Peter Parker, the other Avengers, and ultimately the whole universe. He's willing to sacrifice himself, and only himself, to go take on Thanos before he gets to Earth. You can call it heroism if you want, or maybe stupidity, but in truth, it's simple maturity. It's the essence of growing up. We all desire many things. It's impossible not to. When we're kids, it tends to be toys or candy or attention or TikTok videos, the kind of things that are self-gratifying. As we get older, those impulses don't go away. The desires remain, just attached to new objects. In the immature person, life becomes all about money or cars or women or fame or worse. That's where Tony Stark is when he first meets Steve Rogers. But it isn't much better to deny the desires of life and stoically bear every burden as a solemn duty. It's inhuman, and it's unsatisfying, which is where Steve found himself. The mature adult instead finds a way to merge their desires with their duties, finding personal satisfaction in responsibility and service to others, whether family, friends, community, business, or world. Then they can reap the just rewards of love, money, fame, power, or personal fulfillment without becoming corrupt. And they can still enjoy life while still doing everything that's necessary and expected of them. It's not easy, no one's saying it is. Like Tony or Cap, most of us will tip in one direction or the other. And for most of us 21st century Americans, swimming in prosperity and convenience and social media and technology, it's all too easy to get caught up in wanting more of everything, whether you already have a lot of whatever it is or just see everyone else around you who does. But that isn't the way to be great. Not as a nation, not as a person, not as a hero. That's how you end up with the soups of the boys instead of the Avengers. In this arc, Tony's transformation from man-child to adult hero is the story of the MCU.
Bring back what we lost? I hope, yes. Keep what I found? Have to, at all costs.
In the final act, Tony lost almost everything, but found what he always wanted. He's no longer a hero. He's just a dad. And he wouldn't give up his daughter for the universe. Who would? Of course, that sort of devotion makes him exactly the kind of person who will sacrifice himself. And not just because that's how movie plotting works. No one dies for the pleasure of it. You can't willingly die for the latest iPhone, or a vintage car, or all the one-night stands in the world. And the universe is too big to die for, too diluted, too abstract, like justice or peace or even a nation. You might think we'd die for them, but no one ever does. A wife, a daughter, a home, real concrete things. These are worth dying for, and many people have died for them. Now that Tony has these things, he is ready to take the final step that his duty requires. He's always been willing to put himself in danger, confident in his own abilities to succeed. But only when thinking of his daughter is he willing to make that one-way trip. And it's the loss of Peter Parker, more than anything else, that convinces him to take a long shot on time travel. And it's significant that he reconciles with his father, sort of, in the process. How far we've come from the man in the cave. There's only one way it can end. We all know it. Tony Stark, that arrogant, narcissistic, brilliant jerk, driven to the heights of power and influence and fame by his unquenchable desires, finally finds peace by giving it all away. Steve Rogers, his counterpart from a much different era, who's forever been the good soldier, putting his country and his cause before himself, finally lets himself have the one thing he's always wanted. Duty and desire reconciled at last. Farewell, Tony, Cap. The MCU ended with you. Well, it should have. If you're looking for a reason why the MCU has fallen apart since Endgame, you could point to a lot of problems. Cultural changes, streaming, superhero fatigue, poor writing, just to name a few. But the biggest reason is that the coherent, overarching story that they were telling ended, and nothing really replaced it. There's still no one like Tony Stark or Steve Rogers for the audience to care about, and no storylines as timely or relevant. It's also one reason why the DCEU never took off in the same way, despite experiencing earlier success and hitting the wave of superhero mania at its prime. The Infinity Saga, the Iron Man and Captain America at its core, was the perfect story, the perfect characters, in the perfect format, at the perfect time to be a smash success. Not only were they action movies with big effects and mass appeal, they spoke to the American moment that was both on a high and at a crisis point, facing a global war on terror and multiplying regional conflicts, economic insecurity brought on by financial collapse, cultural changes accelerated by technology, and political polarization that threatened to tear the country apart. Technology, creativity, freedom, and innovation were still what made us great. There were, and still are, growing questions about how fast and how far we can or should rush toward that future. Not everything we want to do is justified simply because we can do it. That's the same problem Tony Stark had to work out over so many movies with the help of a very old friend. It's the same one we're still working out today. We're all Iron Man now. We carry something very like that glowing, all-powerful arc reactor, not in our chest, but in our pockets. And we face the same temptations, if not quite on the same scale. Will we manage to learn the lessons that he did? Will we suffer the same fate? Maybe. If we're lucky.
Tony Stark.
Tony Stark.
Tony Stark.
Tony Stark!
I love Tony Stark.
Tony Stark.
Tony Stark.
Tony Stark.
Tony.
He is. Tony.
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 Hey, Tony.
Be Mr. Tony Stark.